Age UK Lancashire began 75 years ago during World War II on the 11th of December 1941 and was known as the Old People's Welfare Committee. The original minute book is still kept in our head office. It was a group of people interested in the welfare of older people, brought together by the National Old People's Welfare Committee. Its inception was welcomed by councils, ministries and other bodies who were struggling with uncoordinated and insufficient provision for older people across Lancashire. The committee brought together government departments, ministries, the health sector, local councils, religious groups and other voluntary organisations. Age UK Lancashire has continued its work and developed into an organisation that provides services, is creative, fundraisers and influences through campaigns on the problems older people face in today's world. Many of the issues older people faced 75 years ago are still relevant today and focus on money, health, housing, information, isolation and help in the home. Due to the war, housing preoccupied the committee. Before the war, some areas had been building small houses and flats for older people. This work then stopped and they now face the problem of bed blocking, as many older people in hospital had nowhere to go due to their home being damaged or destroyed. Older people were spending night after night in cold, damp shelters alone. The committee tried working with religious groups and other organisations that recognised this need and were trying to set up and coordinate houses, homes and hostels and provide information to older people to help them find accommodation. In 1941, there was a pension scheme for people from the age of 70 and an additional pension where people over 65 could contribute if they had been in employment. People who didn't qualify for this had to apply for financial help, and many didn't. A lot of people suffered real poverty. Age UK has worked tirelessly to assist older people take up additional pension benefits such as attendance allowances. We continue this work today in our information and advice service. In the 1940s and 50s, there were very few opportunities for older people to socialise and remain part of their communities. Isolation was a big issue then and remains so today. The Old People's Welfare Committee tried to bring together information about what was available for people to access. Social clubs were beginning to be developed and rooms were given for free for men's reading or women's meetings and activities. Today, at Age UK Lancashire, we have invested in our engagement department, supporting older people's groups and creating interesting activities. People have always needed information to be able to make choices and live independent lives. Age UK continues to provide, publish and distribute information through its national body. It is a core service for all Age UKs across the country.
My name is Gladys Till, and I'm 100 years old. I've lived in Caton all my life. I worked for the garrison engineer during the war at Lancaster. I lived with my husband, and he were on rations. He had a job to make ends meet. My husband was a farmer, and they didn't get much money. He hadn't much money, about £2 a week. Lived in a cottage belonging to the farm. 2 bedrooms and a downstairs and a kitchen. We had to walk into the middle of the street, river, and break the house to get a can of water. River Loom was at the bottom of the field and Attlebeck was at the back. Well, you boiled it on the kettle on the fire. We never really held anything. We had a little radio, we had a gramophone. We had no help. You had to help yourself. Yeah. Well, if your children, you had to go shopping and bike on a bike, or wheel a pram. Say somebody told there was a queue for rations, so we would go put the children in the pram and walk to Lancaster and queue. But when you got there, it had all gone, so you had to walk back again 5 miles with nothing. I felt sad. Yes, we did that a few times. It's 5 miles to walk it. 2 kids in the pram. But it's just hard work to keep going. Do what you could do. Anyway, we bought a few hens and sold a few eggs around the village, and we could kill them. Well, we went dancing to Morecambe. We go on the train on a Saturday night, and it was a shilling return. And if you went to the tower, show your ticket, and they'd let you in free. So as long as you had tuppence for your cloak, you had enough for the night. We had a long way to run for the train.
I'm Thomas Scott. I live in Nelson, and I'm 92 years old. Well, I'm a World War II veteran, 1941 to 47. Gibraltar, North Africa and Italy and Austria and Switzerland, all over. And after the war finished, we acquired a lot of horses and we started show jumping and racing. And I went to the veterinary corps and of course passed it and horse management and finished up as a jockey. I came home, 1947, it was all white with snow, couldn't see a wall or a hedge anywhere. And my dad said, you better walk it over to Barley, that when you Pendle to my cousin's wife. Her husband died 2 months before, only 29-year-old. And I ran the farm till she sold out. I got permanent leave, and I ran the farm, 100-acre farm, and I ran that till she sold out in September. And after that, I worked at the Co-op Farms, and one night out shooting after a fox, I shot my arm. I slipped down some steps and blew my elbow out. I got married in 1954. My wife worked at Woolworths for 40 years, and I worked on farms, and I worked as a building maintenance man for AEI, big factory, you know. And after that I got a job at the town hall, caretaking, public buildings.
I just about remember the war. I was born in 41 and the war finished in 45. But in 1944, on the early hours of the 23rd of December, no, the 24th of December, there was the last flying bomb that ever dropped, landed in the fields just up the road, and it blew every window and door off the 53 houses where I lived, all the mill windows. Caused nobody was killed, but it caused a lot of damage. And I lived in a little mill cottage, a 2 up, 2 down, that belonged to the mill, because one of the tenants had to work at the cotton mill to be able to have the house, otherwise you'd be out of it. Very primitive. Flag floors, gas lights, no heating, no hot water, outside toilet. So it was just my parents and myself lived in ours, but there were houses where there were grandparents living in as well, and houses with big families, as many as 6 and 7 children all living in a 2 up, 2 down house. I don't know where they slept, but they did. I had family around me. Up Bourne's Road at that time, I think everybody was related. And on the row of 6 houses where I lived, it was my mum and dad. 2 doors down was my great aunt. Another 2 doors down was my grandma and granddad, and next door to them was my auntie. So we were all very family. But growing up, we did televisions, we did jigsaws and knitting and sewing. And on a Friday night, Dad went for a drink, and Mum used to roll the carpet back when we cleaned up, and we used to dance to, I don't know what, some programme on the radio. and we used to go for a walk because we had no car, and just generally country people just doing simple things, I suppose.
I'm May Neild, and I was born at Burnley and went to live for my younger life at Todmorden, right in the middle of the Pennines. Life was happy because you didn't know any different. When I was 3, I developed pneumonia and I was taken into Burnley Victoria Hospital. I was in for 5 weeks, and all that time I remember them coming and they could only see me through bars in a window. They couldn't come into the room where I was, and I was on my own in this room. I distinctly remember them passing those little ice gems, those little tiny biscuits with a bit of icing on top, and passing 1 or 2 of them through these bars to me. And Dad had to give up work. Growing up, yes, I know there was ration books. I know Mum used to sell some of her coupons, and there was no family allowance or anything. We were a poor family, and I suppose there were loads of others like us who just had cast-offs. And Grandma used to send me through the post a little pixie bonnet made out of a scrap of velvet that she had or something like that. Grandma was a seamstress, and she used to make all sorts and send them, which helped, of course, with clothing Edward and me. But my mum was a weaver. She worked in the mills, and the factory burnt down. My father worked there. He was a size mixer. Eventually they put him on a horse and cart because he used to be a farmer, and that more or less finished him off because he was out in all weathers and he never worked again. Mother had to go out to work. My father's funeral in 1952 was £40, 7 and 6. And I know for years she was paying the doctor's bills for my father and myself, and she was paying for the funeral at perhaps £6 a week, and that went on for years. Talking to my brother not long since, and I gave him my father's funeral bill, and he was just horrified. He said, "Why didn't Mother tell me?" I said, "She'd too much pride, she wouldn't tell you." But yes, that's the way things was. But like I say, as a child you don't know what's happy and what's not happy. Life just goes on, doesn't it? And you just adapt to it. Nowadays it's different, totally different.
And I come here every Monday when I can. I think it's very good here, yeah. And they come for me. We do all sorts of things. We are going to be baking, yeah. I worked in the shop till I was 18, and then the war was on, and I had to go to war. I didn't want to go in any of the forces, so I went on war work, making things in the factory. This is what we did, isn't it, during the war? I can't just think what we made. Something to do with bombs. I was married by then. Eventually we bought a little corner shop. It was down Hendy Road. But by then we had 3 children, and we were in there until we retired. We both retired, yeah. That was wonderful. And we never had much money, but you don't need much money if you do what you want to do. Bob and I were going to get married 1 year, but on the 15th of December, Bob rang up and he said, "Will you get a special licence in 4 days? I'm going to be recruited. I have to go abroad to India." He was in the Fleet Air. So I got a special licence, and all my family came round the day before, and somebody said, "We know Mrs. Taylor who lives at Morecambe." So we rang her up, but she was in hospital, so we couldn't have her, you know. So we got married, and then after we'd been to Oddie's top room, Cathy, I used to work in Oddie's, we could only have 30 people, so we had a reception there. We went home and got changed and went to the station, We got on the wrong train. We landed up at Wigan. We eventually landed up at Morecambe. Left after 12 o'clock. Bob in officer's uniform, knocking at doors saying, could you put your... Well, people would obviously think that we weren't married, you know, wouldn't they? Think we're on it, you know. I like Morecambe, and that was my honeymoon, yeah. In sunny Morecambe, yeah.
My name is Frank Charman. I'm 75 years of age. I was just born as the war started. My father was a regular soldier. He was a sergeant in the Royal Artillery, and he was training troops down on Bexhill-on-Sea, and he met my mother down there. Now, my mother was a Cockney. She was born in the East End of London. She was working in an hotel. He was a soldier. They met up, eventually got married, came up north, which is where he was from. They settled down there, and consequently I was born. Father was away all the time, but he used to look after us. A great big box of fruit arriving at the front door by lorry. My mum opened it up and it was full of... I'd never seen things like that. They were full of bananas, apricots, apples, oranges, fruit of all kinds. And I thought, well, nuts. I thought, I can't eat things like that. My mum said, get them, eat, they're good for you. There was just me and my mother, but she used to look after one of my cousins. She used to come and stay with us occasionally, and we looked after her. But what I'm getting at is everybody looked out for each other. Mrs. Beanland over the road, Mrs. So-and-so, they all made things and did bits and bobs. Just my mother looked after me, but she was also working. She worked at the munitions factory as a crane driver. Oh, there was no financial support, only what my dad sent home. You know, his wages from the army. I forget, I don't know how much it was, but it certainly wasn't a lot of money. But we got by, you know, and my mother used to, everything that we ate, she made. There was no going to the shops and buying a pizza and, you know, pies. No. She made everything. All the baking she did, she'd bake bread on a Saturday. That would last all week and probably feed half the street as well, because she was a very generous person. We had a good family. Got married when I was 22. By then, my mother had died, so my wife and myself lived with my father because he'd have been on his own, so we lived there. And he could cook and he could iron and sew. He knew all. That's what they taught you in the army. He'd passed all his certificates in the army, taught himself to read and write and everything, because he'd come out of school with no education. A very independent man, he was a soldier, and he knew how to cope, you know.
Age UK Lancashire are still helping older people today to lead fulfilling and independent lives and remain part of their local communities. A continuation of the concerns revealed by the very first committee in 1941.